Alright, so today's notes are all about how percents are changing. That's why it's called percent of change. Okay, so with percent of change, there are two types. There's the percent increase, which means your answers are going to increase, or they're going to go up. And then there's the decrease, which means they're going to go down. And you're going to subtract it, or you're going to add it to your answer. Okay? And so this, depending on which type of percent it is depending on if you're going to add it or subtract it at the end. And so it's important that you recognize the two differences between increase and decrease. Okay? So first of all, there's a formula that we're going to use for this. You're going to see this formula throughout the entire chapter. As you get older, most of your math problems will require a formula, but this is really the first one that we're going to use a ton. As we get into geometry, you'll use a lot more. But for now, you have your new, okay, over your old. And that's going to be your new measurement or your new number over the old one. So what was the original cost? That would be your old cost. And what you're looking for, what your new cost is going to be at the top. After that, you're going to subtract it from 1. And then you're going to times it by 100. And then timesing it by 100 simply is either turning it into a percent or dealing with percents. Just like on percent proportions, the 100 you're always going to have at the bottom right. This is just something you'll always have. Okay? Now, as we're dealing with this, we're going to label using the N and the O. Okay? It helps when you label so you know which one's the new one, which one's the old one. So as we go through this, Stan went from 18 miles per gallon to 22 miles per gallon. What is Stan's percent of change in his gas mileage? So if you notice, the first thing that gives it away is right here. It says percent of change, which means you are looking for the percent of change. Anytime you see the percent of change, go back to this formula. So now you have two numbers. You have 18 miles per gallon, and then you have 22 miles per gallon. Okay, so the first step number 1 is to label the amounts new and old. So you have to decide which one of these is the new one and which one's the old one. Okay? In this case, if they went from 18 miles per gallon, that means their old one was 18 miles per gallon. And then if they went to 22 miles per gallon, that means their new one is going to be 22 miles per gallon. So now we've labeled the old and the new. Step number 2 is to place the numbers you labeled in the formula. And then to solve it. So now that we have the old and the new, we're going to plug it in. Okay, so the old is 18, so on the bottom is 18. The new is 22, and that's at the top. And then from there, you're going to minus 1 times 100. Okay, and let's solve that. You have 22 divided by 18 minus 1 times 100. So you're at 22.2%. So this gave us 22.2%. Okay, now step 3 is we are going to add the percent sign. Since it is a change in percent, That's why right here I added the percent sign. Or up here, if you notice there aren't any percent signs, we have to add it because we're changing the percent. And then number 4 is actually pretty simple. If the answer is negative, which sometimes you will, it means that there was a decrease. That's why up here, negative answers means there was a decrease. If the answer is positive, it means there was an increase. And so in this case, 22.2%, it's a positive, so it's an increase in change. If you want to change it to just an I to shorten it, that would be fine too, I don't care. But you do need to label whether it's an increase or decrease, which is easy because it depends on if it's positive or negative. Okay, so now we're going to practice a few. We have 5 problems to practice and then 5 you're going to do on your own. Okay, so step 1 is I would label it. Okay, 50 pounds to 35 pounds. So it's changing. So your old one's 50 and your new one is 35. So it's going to be your new over old. So 35 over 50 minus 1 times 100. Okay, so you have 35 divided by 50, enter, minus 1, enter, times 100. Negative 30. Add the percent sign, and it's a negative, which means it's decreasing. That's what I mean about sometimes you'll get a negative. Okay, number 2. Last week you finished level 2, or a video game, in 32 minutes of, that's of a video game, in 32 minutes. Today you finished it in 28 minutes. What is the percent change? So you have your 32 minutes, which is what you did yesterday, so that's your old time. And then you have 28 minutes, which is what you did today, so that's your new time. So then you have your new over old, 28 over 32 minus 1 times 100. Okay, plug this in, 28 divided by 32 minus 1 times 100. Negative 12.5. So you have 0.5, add percent, and it's a negative, so it is decreasing. Okay, and the next 3 are all pretty simple. 12 inches to 36 inches, which means it was 12 and now it's 36. So you have 36 divided by 12 minus 1 times 100. Plug it in. Also, don't plug it in all at once. Do it by steps. 36 divided by 12, enter. See how I got my answer? Okay, and then I subtracted 1, and then I hit enter, and then I times it by 100. And this is a big one. It's 200. But if you notice, it's 200%, and because it's a positive, it's increasing. Next is you have 15 liters. Oh, and here's an interesting one. Increased by 60%. So it gave us the total instead. So it gave us the total instead, which is 60%. Okay, so in this case, you have 60% of 15. And what does that give you? 60% of 15, which means you multiply them, if you multiply them, I'm going to do 60% of 15 gives me 9. So you're going to have 9 plus 15, because you add it back to this one, and it's going to give you a 24. That's how you do it if there's a percent. Okay, if it was a decrease, you'd subtract it, but because it's an increase, that's why you add it. So like here's a decrease, so we're going to subtract it. So you have 50, or 26% of 50, so times by 50. So let's type in 26% times 50 is 13. That equals 13. And then because it's a decrease, we're going to subtract them. So you have 50 minus 13, which is 37. And so these two and these two are going to be the same. This one's going to be adding, and this one's going to be subtracting. Okay? Those will definitely be the two more difficult ones, so hopefully you guys actually made it to the end and watched, because that'd be great, huh? Okay, but these three should be pretty simple. So you guys can get started on this as soon as you want. It does take a little longer to solve these ones, so take that into account. Also, if you want to wait and do these in class for the calculator purpose, that's fine.